My husband avoided me for 3 months. Then one morning Ethan said, "You're barren, Julia. You can never be a mother." He said it between sips of coffee like it was a weather report. My fork froze halfway to my mouth, eggs cooling while he dismantled our marriage with one sentence. 3 months of flinching when I touched him. 3 months of excuses, late meetings, separate blankets, early gym runs. And now this was the explanation. My body was broken, defective, unworthy of the legacy he needed. What he didn't know was that I already had a manila envelope in my purse. Inside it, test results proving the exact opposite. Before we continue, if you believe truth always finds its way to the light and deception never wins, please consider subscribing. It's free and helps share stories like this. What did you just say? My voice came out thin, strangled. I had some tests done, he said, unlocking his phone. My fertility's fine. The problem is you. He shoved the screen toward me, a blur of medical jargon that I couldn't read before he pulled it back. It's biology, Julia. I stared at the man I'd built a life with. The man who had started sleeping in gym clothes like escape was part of his bedtime routine. His alarm moved earlier each week, 7 o'clock, 6:30, 6 o'clock, his lies waking before sunrise. He'd stopped wearing his ring. Stopped eating my cooking. Even stopped calling me Jules. Each tiny absence a quiet rehearsal for goodbye. I need children, he said, straightening his tie. I need a legacy. He said it like a press release, not a confession. When the door clicked behind him, the silence was heavy enough to bend air. The word Barren echoed like static. I reached for my purse. Dr. Navarro's signature stared back at me. Perfect reproductive health. No barriers to conception. Ethan was the broken one. He just didn't know it yet. 2 years earlier he'd had a surgery he called minor. I'd believed him. Now I called his doctor's office and confirmed what I suspected. No follow-up tests, no improvement. The original report sat in his file like a secret he'd buried. Low motility, reduced viability. That night he installed a keypad lock on his home office. New corporate policy, he said, smiling too fast. The beep of that code became a metronome for his lies. He started coming home later. Always freshly showered, smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. His gym bag lived by the door like a silent accomplice. One evening my sister called and said she'd seen him downtown with someone. Someone young, someone glowing. Her name was Sabrina. She worked in accounting. And from the way Ethan had been talking about a new future, I knew what he was building. Friday morning a message appeared. Dinner. 7 p.m. Palmer House. Black tie. Don't be late. He added, I'm bringing someone you should meet. I stared at the text until the words blurred. Then I smiled. Because the manila envelope was ready. Certified copies, sealed and stamped. My fertility results, his medical file, every missing test. Facts lined up like dominoes waiting for gravity. That night I packed the envelope into my clutch. Not heavy, but it felt like justice. He thought he was about to humiliate me in public. What he didn't know was that the truth was already seated at our table, waiting to be served. After that breakfast, the word Barren followed me everywhere. In my inbox. In my sleep. In the quiet hum of our apartment that used to sound like home. Ethan acted like nothing had happened. He texted about errands, cracked jokes at dinner, kissed my cheek in the morning as if words didn't have consequences. It was almost worse than the silence. I stopped confronting him. I started collecting him instead. Bits of data, habits, timing. Truth needs evidence. And I was done running on emotion. His phone passcode had changed. But he still synced his laptop to our shared cloud. That's where I found the receipts. A jewelry store. A spa package. Hotel brunch for 2. All purchased on weekdays when I thought he was at client meetings. The next step was his office. Voss and Hale's winter gala was only a week away, and I knew he was working late. So I brought muffins to reception like a thoughtful wife. The receptionist, Caitlin, smiled too politely. Her eyes flickered toward the elevators. You just missed him, she said. He left with Sabrina. That name again. I let it roll off my tongue casually. Oh right. Accounting. Yeah, she said and then hesitated. They're close. When I pressed the elevator button, my reflection in the steel doors looked unfamiliar, composed, almost calm. Inside my pulse was a steady drumbeat. At home I opened the manila folder and slid in the new receipts. Jury. Spa. Phil. Each page a step closer to the truth. 2 nights later I waited outside Voss and Hale's parking garage. He told me he had a late presentation. At 10:17 p.m. the gate opened. Ethan's car rolled out. Sabrina sat in the passenger seat, laughing, her hand resting on her belly. The light caught it just right. A curve. Subtle. But unmistakable. I didn't move. I just wrote down the date and time. Some evidence you don't need a camera for. You just need to remember how it felt. The next morning I returned to Voss and Hale. Not to confront but to confirm. Caitlin was at her desk again, typing quickly, pretending not to notice me. I left my husband's scarf, I said. Conference room maybe? While she checked, a junior analyst walked by. Mark, maybe 26, fresh, nervous. He glanced at me, lowered his voice. Are you Julia? Yes. He looked guilty before he spoke. You didn't hear it from me, but congratulations, I guess. They said Sabrina's pregnant. Ethan's over the moon. My fingers tightened around my phone. When did you hear that? Last week. He told the partners. I smiled, thanked him, walked out slowly. My heartbeat didn't match my steps. Outside, the cold wind hit my face like a slap. Pregnant. And everyone knew. Everyone but me. Back in my car I opened the folder again. Dr. Navarro's results. Mine. Ethan's pre-surgery report. His. Now a new section labeled Timeline. I wrote the date of the alleged pregnancy announcement and underlined it twice. If Sabrina was really pregnant now, conception had happened around the same time Ethan was traveling for work. Meaning, right after his own doctor noted he was still waiting for follow-up fertility clearance. I called Dr. Navarro's office again. Could you send a second certified copy? For insurance? The receptionist asked. For closure, I said. That night Ethan came home whistling. His phone buzzed twice. He smiled down at the screen and didn't notice me watching. I went to the kitchen, poured wine, and laid the evidence across the counter like a crime board. Dates. Transactions. Motility charts. Everything lined up. The last piece was proof of Sabrina's pregnancy. I didn't need medical results. Office gossip was good, but documentation was better. So I did something bold. I sent an anonymous email to HR, pretending to be from an external agency verifying employee benefits eligibility. Within hours, an auto-reply came with a spreadsheet attached. Maternity leave requests, pending approval. Her name was there. Sabrina Walsh. Estimated due date, July 15th. I leaned back, staring at the screen until it blurred. A 4-month pregnancy. Exactly the time Ethan had started sleeping in gym clothes. He'd called me Barren while his mistress carried another man's child. He just didn't know it yet. I printed the spreadsheet and slipped it into the manila envelope, right behind his medical file. The envelope was getting thicker. So was my patience. The gala was 3 days away. And soon, every lie he'd ever told would have witnesses. The Palmer house glowed like a memory someone polished. Gold leaf ceilings. Red carpet that swallowed sound. Crystals soft as rain. If you stand still long enough in that lobby, you can hear promises people meant when they said them. I didn't stand still. I arrived at 6:42. Black dress. Hair pinned. One ring on my finger and another in my bag because symbols cut both ways. I asked the host for a table on the main floor, not the corner Ethan had requested. I smiled politely. Slipped a 20 across the leather book. He glanced at my face and understood. People do when a night is about to turn. Here will be perfect, I said. Center right, sight lines clean, near the chandelier that makes everyone look more honest than they are. I placed my clutch on the empty chair. Touched the manila envelope once. Paper steadied my pulse better than breathing exercises. Before anything else, if you believe truth deserves a witness, subscribe. It helps more people find their way to stories like this. Then come back. We're not done. At exactly 7, the room exhaled. Ethan walked in wearing the charcoal suit I bought for his promotion. Sabrina followed half a step behind, blue silk draped over a bump no one could politely ignore. He scanned for the dark booth he'd planned to hide me in. He saw me instead, lit, centered, calm. His jaw clicked once. He smoothed it with a smile. Julia, he said when they reached the table, as if we were friendly neighbors meeting at a school fundraiser. This is Sabrina. I thought that I should meet, I said. Of course. Sabrina moved a hand to her belly. Reflex. Flame. Her nails were pale pink, neat as a spreadsheet. Up close she looked younger than in office photos. Glowing in the way people use that word when they don't know what else to say. Congratulations, I added gentle. On everything. Ethan missed the base of his wine glass on the first try. The server arrived with menus we didn't need. Ethan ordered a bottle, remembered, corrected. 2 glasses. Sparkling water for her. He was trying to narrate decency. Sounded like stage directions. So, he began, voice pitched for reason. Given your situation. My situation? I tilted my head. The chandelier scattered light across the tablecloth like confetti no one had earned. He folded his hands. We need to talk about the future with Grace. Grace. He treated the word like a shield. Sabrina's gaze flicked between us. Ethan told me you've been trying. I'm sorry. Her sympathy was smooth, prearranged. Someone had rehearsed these lines with her. I smiled without showing teeth. Trying is one word for it. Silence sat with us. Not awkward. Educational. Around us, partners and spouses pretended not to notice. The head of HR failed at pretending. Jennifer from compliance stared at the silverware like it was an ethics exam. Ethan cleared his throat. Sabrina and I didn't plan for this, but... Life, I said. It turns. Yes, he rushed in, relieved. We're choosing to move forward. Maturely. I lifted my water glass. To maturity, I said. We touched rims. His glass chimed like something delicate about to crack. Sabrina's hand kept circling her stomach. Calm tempo. Waiting for permission to be happy in front of me. I studied her ring finger. Bare. Of course. When did you find out? I asked. December, she said softly, then flinched like the month had slipped out of her unapproved. December. My pen wrote that answer days ago on a page titled Timeline. December, when Ethan moved his alarm to 6 o'clock and started sleeping in moisture-wicking shirts. December, when he told me the gym had better showers. December, when the iPad accidentally displayed searches about infertile wife like neon. Ethan leaned forward. Julia, we can discuss logistics later. Tonight is a celebration. My team hit numbers we haven't. Celebrations deserve truth, I said, folding my napkin into a neat rectangle. Otherwise you're just feeding people lies on white linen. He blinked. Tried to laugh. Came out in the wrong key. Sabrina tried a bridge. We don't want to hurt you. I looked at her. Not cruelly. Accurately. You already did. Another server appeared. Bread basket. Butter shaped like coins. The room's noise rose and fell like the lake outside. Distant, present, indifferent. I noticed small things to keep my hands from shaking. The way Ethan kept touching his cufflinks. The tiny run in Sabrina's hem. A flake of gold leaf missing above the arch. Right where a person would never look unless they needed something to fix their eyes on. Ethan settled into the voice he uses in boardrooms. We've discussed options. A compassionate separation. Financially fair. Dignified. You'll be okay. There was. A man carving up a life and calling it charity. Dignity, I said quietly, isn't something other people bestow. He reached for the bottle again. Missed the base again. At the next table a partner's wife whispered, Isn't that his wife? The partner whispered back, Shoo. People love a show as long as they can pretend they didn't buy tickets. Sabrina laced her fingers, then unlaced them. Ethan says you're strong. He says you'll find another path to motherhood. I let the sentence sit between us until its shape revealed the hole in the middle. He told her I would accept the story. He forgot I had my own. Do you remember our last anniversary? I asked Ethan, still mild. You toasted to building our future on truth. Color rose in his neck. That's not helpful. It's relevant. The band started a standard in the corner. A saxophone practiced sincerity. The server poured sparkling water, careful not to spill. Hands know when a table matters. Ethan tried again. We can be adults about this. I nodded. Let's. He smiled, relieved too easily. Good. Then you understand why. I do, I said, reaching for my clutch. I understand exactly why. The manila envelope slid into my hand like it belonged there. It did. It had belonged there since the morning he said the word and expected me to carry it for him. He saw it. His pupils tightened. His posture did too. The room's temperature didn't change, but he suddenly seemed cold. "What's that?" he asked, the lightness gone. "Proof," I said. Sabrina's gaze dropped to the flap, reading fear the way you read a headline. "Ethan." He didn't answer her. His eyes were on mine, calculating. "Julia, please. This isn't the place." "This," I said, "is exactly the place." I set my napkin down with care. Palms dry. Heart steady. The chandelier threw little constellations across the tablecloth, like stars someone could navigate by if they knew how. "Truth deserves a room," I added. "Tonight it has one." I rose just enough to lean forward, arms loose, voice gentle enough that the nearest tables would still hear without straining. Then I extended the manila envelope across the white linen toward Ethan. Ethan's fingers trembled when he slit the envelope. I stayed seated a fraction longer. Let him feel the moment. Let him believe he still had a script. He unfolded the first page. Dr. Navarro's letterhead. My name printed there because I had insisted the documents be formal, notarized. He skimmed. His eyes narrowed. He flipped the second sheet. Then the third. I let the room breathe for him. "Read it out loud," I said. He didn't look at me. He read with that horrible, brittle clarity people use when they tell bad news they think belongs to someone else. Preoperative semen analysis. Significantly reduced motility and morphology. Postoperative follow-up recommended. No documented follow-up tests on file. Prognosis. Likelihood of natural conception after varicocele repair. Negligible. He stopped at negligible. The sound stopped too. The restaurant noise pulled thin as if someone had gently unlatched the sky. Ethan's face lost color the way a film does when you unplug the projector. "Nah." He looked up finally. Not at the envelope. At me. This is wrong. That was years ago. I told you it was fixed. I had surgery, Julia. The doctor said it would be fine." I stood then. Slow. Deliberate. The table had become a stage and I was done whispering my lines. I put my hand on the back of my chair and pushed up until I was taller than his excuses. "You told me a story," I said, voice soft so that the whole room could decide whether to lean in. "You told me a story so you could leave the marriage without carrying the blame." He blinked at the paper in his hands like it had bitten him. Listen," I said. I folded my napkin. "This document shows the pre-op motility at 12% normal forms. The urologist recommended retesting at 3 months. There is no record of a retest. There is no record of recovery. There is a follow-up note from the surgeon that states, and I quote, postoperative natural fertility unlikely given baseline parameters. Unquote. Sabrina's hand flew to her mouth like a reflex. Her fork paused midair. Her color drained next to Ethan's. He tried to recover by sarcasm. "So what, you're saying I'm sterile? Is that what you told Angela, Sabrina, that I couldn't conceive?" I said. "You told her I was the problem. You used my womb as an excuse to leave." The table shifted. A man at the next table cleared his throat like a man presiding over a verdict. Ethan glanced frantically at Sabrina, searching for a lifeline. "Sabrina," he stuttered. "This can't." Sabrina's jaw clenched. "Julia, of course it's his," she started a practiced defense. "Ethan, Her voice thinned when dozens of small conversations hushed at once. I reached for the next page. A printed email thread. Dates, timestamps. Her name on the HR spreadsheet. My own timeline beside it, written in a neat column. "Sabrina," I said, "your estimated due date on HR is July 15th. That makes conception roughly mid-October." I looked at Ethan. "Where were you mid-October?" He groped for his phone like it might narrate a better memory. "Work. Travel." He said it sharply, like rehearsed. He tried to make the word travel into an alibi. "No," I said. "You were home convalescing. You had surgery. You were the man who told me to fetch his pills, to bring him ice packs, who slept with the heating pad under the sheets. I cared for you while you were fragile. While you were supposed to be getting retested." Sabrina's face went still. For the first time that night she didn't have an answer on the ready. "You're lying," Ethan whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. "Am I?" I let the question hang like a mirror. Then I turned the page and slid it toward Sabrina so everyone could see the header. Subject: maternity leave request, Sabrina Walsh. Her name printed next to an estimated due date. Faces turned. Murmurs rose like a tide. Sabrina's hands found the edge of the table. He swallowed. She started, then stopped. Her eyes flicked to Ethan, and for a second I could see the tiny, panicked calculus. Keep lying and hope for male loyalty, or save what dignity was left by telling the truth. Tell them, I said. Her voice came out small at first. She looked at Ethan like she expected him to smite her with anger or to rescue her with a lie. He opened his mouth and there was nothing there. It's not Ethan's, she said, each syllable peeling away the comfort she'd been banking on. Her throat closed. The room waited like an audience holding its breath. It's Mark, she whispered finally. From operations. I thought he's been kind. Her face collapsed. I'm sorry. Silence broke into shocked gasps. A woman at the next table dropped her napkin. Someone laughed once, too loud, the sound of a person who thinks they must break the tension. Ethan's head snapped toward Mark's direction like a hound following a scent. He looked at Sabrina like a man discovering his reflection in a puddle of lies. What? He breathed. Mark. Sabrina nodded, tears forming. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Mark from operations? A partner asked, incredulous. He's married. He's divorced, someone else corrected. Ethan's mouth opened and closed. He looked around the room for sympathy and found none. The partners who had nodded at his presentations now glanced away. Jennifer from compliance's eyes were flat with betrayal. The HR head's face was a textbook of mortification. You told me I was the one who was broken, Ethan said, voice raw. You called me Barren to make it easier for you to leave. And you brought her here. He pointed at Sabrina as if she were the exhibit and not a person, to show me you'd already replaced me. He sounded small. Petty. Exposed. Sabrina sobbed then, sudden and ugly. Her mascara streaked down two perfect cheeks. She laughed once, a brittle sound, then covered her face. You used my body as cover, I said, looking at Ethan. You used her like a promise. You lied to both of us. A man at the bar muttered, "What a mess." Phones appeared. Someone at a nearby table started filming. Ethan made a sound that was half fury, half plea. Julia, please, don't. I collected my clutch. The envelope was lighter now, its contents spent. The night had done its work. The truth had teeth and it had bitten. You wanted a public humiliation, I said as I rose. Tonight is public. He tried to stand, to grab my arm, to do anything that would make him feel in control. His hand hovered and dropped. Sabrina's mother, who, unbeknownst to Sophie, had been sitting 2 tables over for a partner's anniversary, stood and fled, face red. A waiter averted his eyes, uncertain whether to intervene or clear the table. I walked out slowly. He shouted something that dissolved into the clinking of glasses. Someone called Ethan a name, cheap, cruel, and the sound hung like a verdict. Outside, the cold hit me clean. My pulse returned to its ordinary rhythm. People on the sidewalk looked like they were watching a play end. I didn't wait for applause. In the morning there would be emails, rumors, HR memos. There would be damage control and statements. They would feel humiliated. They would be exposed. I stepped into a cab, sliding the now empty manila envelope back into my clutch as if it had never left. My phone buzzed. One new message from an unknown number. I didn't open it. Behind me, through the restaurant's glass, I watched them. Ethan slumped, face in hands. Sabrina being consoled by a colleague who smelled faintly of aftershave and panic. The scene was messy and human, and exactly what truth looks like when it finishes its work. The morning after the gala, Chicago felt different. The sky looked scrubbed clean. The air lighter. Or maybe it was just the absence of lies. I woke to silence. No alarm set for 6 a.m., no gym bag by the door, no coffee brewing that I'd never drink. Ethan's toothbrush was gone. So were half of his suits. He must have packed before the dinner. He'd planned to leave me. I'd simply rearranged the timing. By noon my phone was buzzing nonstop. Voicemails from friends. Messages from coworkers. Even one from Jennifer in compliance, short and brutal. Julia, everyone saw. You didn't just end a marriage. You exposed a fraud. By afternoon, screenshots from the restaurant's footage started circulating through the firm. Someone had recorded the moment Sabrina whispered, "It's Mark from operations." Someone else had caught Ethan shouting, "Whose baby is it?" Within hours the video was everywhere. The scandal had a title, The Dinner That Ended a Legacy. At Voss and Hale, HR worked overtime. Mark resigned before noon. Sabrina's maternity leave request vanished from the system. Ethan was temporarily suspended, pending review for misconduct. A polite phrase meaning the partners don't want to see your face again. By sunset, I received an email from HR asking if I wanted to pursue a complaint. I didn't answer. I wasn't interested in revenge through paperwork. The truth had already done its job. That evening I sat on the balcony with a cup of tea. The manila envelope lay beside me, now thin and quiet. Inside it were just the fertility papers. Mine. The proof that I was never broken. I thought of Sabrina. I should have felt satisfaction, maybe triumph. But what I felt was release. She'd built her illusion on the same foundation Ethan did, believing lies could last. They never do. A soft ping interrupted my thoughts. An email from Ethan. Julia. You destroyed me. Are you proud? Everyone knows. I can't show my face at work. Sabrina's gone. The baby isn't mine. I can't even look at myself. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know. I'm sorry. I read it twice, then deleted it. Not out of anger. Out of peace. There was nothing left to say. A week later, I met Dr. Navarro again to thank her for reissuing the documents. She smiled kindly. Your numbers are exceptional, she said. I laughed softly. Not the first time I've heard that lately. It wasn't pride. It was reclamation. At home I started cleaning. Every corner. Every drawer. I threw away the extra toothbrush, the half-empty cologne, the gym towel he'd left behind. Each item gone was another pound of weight lifted off my chest. A knock came at the door that evening. It was Caitlin from reception, the one who'd first warned me. She handed me a small box. Found this on Ethan's desk before security cleared it out, she said. Inside a ring. My ring. The one he'd stopped wearing. Under it, a folded note in his handwriting. You were never the problem. I placed the ring on the table. It didn't hurt anymore. It was just metal. 2 weeks later, Voss and Hale released an official statement. We do not tolerate personal misconduct that compromises professional integrity. No names mentioned, but everyone knew. I got messages from women I'd never met. Thank you for standing up. You gave me courage to walk away. Your story saved me. I didn't answer them all, but I read every one. Truth spreads quietly like light under a door. That night I walked to the lakefront. Wind off Lake Michigan brushed against my hair, the same way it had the night I discovered Ethan's lies. Only now it didn't sting, it cleared. I sat on a bench, phone in hand, and typed one final post to close the chapter. To anyone told they're broken, you're not. Sometimes the person pointing the finger is just hiding their own cracks. When the truth finally arrives, don't hide from it. Let it shine. Then I hit post. The likes poured in, but that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was silence. Clean, earned silence. I looked up at the city skyline, lights rippling on the lake like new beginnings. For the first time in years I felt light. Not empty. Just free. Ethan had wanted a legacy. He got one. A cautionary tale told by everyone who'd watched him lose everything he built on lies. Me. I got the truth. The only inheritance worth keeping. The divorce papers came faster than anyone expected. Voss and Hale wanted to disappear the story, not drag it. By the end of the week their lawyers called mine with a phrase that meant defeat dressed as compromise. Mutual agreement. Ethan offered everything, condo, savings, half his shares, anything to end the noise. He didn't contest a thing. I signed once, steady hand, and the judge said the words that sounded like oxygen. Dissolved. 2 months later the firm released its official statement. Mr. Hale is no longer with the company. No reasons listed. No farewell drinks. His name erased from the website before lunch. Sabrina left quietly after maternity leave was denied. Rumor said she moved back to Ohio, living with her sister, raising a child who carried the wrong last name. Mark was demoted, transferred, forgotten. Corporate justice moves fast when optics burn. I didn't watch the fallout. I built instead. The marketing agency I'd once run on weekends, small, 2 clients, grew overnight when my story went viral. Brands wanted the woman who turned humiliation into strategy. Truth Consulting, my assistant suggested. I laughed, but the name stuck. We started with 4 employees. Within a year we had 20. I didn't measure success in revenue. I measured it in calm. Some evenings when Lake Michigan caught the city lights just right, I'd walk the shoreline and think of everything that once defined me. Wife, problem, patient, failure. Gone. Now I was the woman who survived her own extinction and came back holding evidence. Ethan tried to reach out once more. An email sent from a new address. Julia. I'm in therapy. I understand what I did. I see you everywhere. Articles, podcast. You turned me into a lesson. I hope you're happy. I wrote back one sentence. I am. Then I blocked the address. Closure doesn't need punctuation. 6 months after the divorce, my lawyer called. The final settlement posted, she said. Funds cleared. You're officially debt-free and holding 60% of joint assets. I thanked her and donated 10% to a women's legal aid fund. It felt right. Truth should circulate. The night I celebrated, I invited only the people who had stood by me. Mila, my mother, Caitlin from reception. We toasted on the balcony with cheap champagne and expensive laughter. Do you miss him? Mila asked softly. No, I said. I miss who I thought he was. But she's gone too. The wind off the lake was warm. Somewhere downtown a siren wailed and faded. Silence followed, whole and clean. Later, alone, I opened the drawer where I'd kept the manila envelope. Empty now except for one document. Perfect reproductive health. I smiled. Proof not of fertility, but of truth. I placed it back, closed the drawer and turned off the light. Tomorrow I'd present at a Women in Leadership conference. The topic, building after betrayal. I already knew my closing line. When someone calls you broken, check the source. It's usually the person who's afraid you'll find your strength. The city outside shimmered, endless windows full of stories still unfolding. Mine finally was finished. Quiet, honest and entirely mine.